Ouachita One Table. Ouachita One Table podcast is a deeper discussion of issues facing our business communities. Over this series, we'll invite community leaders and businesses, the arts, nonprofits, culture, and government as we discuss the issues that strike at the heart of the Chamber's mission for the greater good of our parish. Topics such as workforce development, education, quality of life, economic development, and more. Ouachita One Table. This podcast is a partnership project of the Monroe and West Monroe West Ouachita Chambers of Commerce and was produced by Godly Works Productions in the Louisiana Catalyst Podcast Studios at the Benoit Community Center. Now, here are your hosts, Roy Heatherly and Christopher Kelly.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Kelly with the West Monroe West Ouachita Chamber, joined with my friend
Roy Heatherly with the Monroe Chamber of Commerce. And Chris, I don't know how we do it, but we get these amazing guests. This is an inspiration. Our guest today is an inspiration.
Aww. So, Asja Jordan, currently Miss ULM, but so much more than that. So when I was thinking about this interchange this morning, I was saying, I can't just say Miss ULM. I have to say almost student, marketer, entrepreneur,
intern,
health coach, intern, all of these things, and then you made time to go through pageants and be a leader to young girls.
Yes, thank you for recognizing
me feel
many
winded.
hats.
So let's back up. So you're a student at ULM.
Yes, I am a grad student pursuing my master's in public administration, and I graduate in December.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, and you're Miss ULM now, but
Yes.
last year you were Miss Taste of the Twin Cities.
That is correct.
So tell us about the experience in pageantry. It's probably a lot more than we think.
Absolutely. So I had never imagined that I would walk around with a crown and sash. Growing up, I was very tomboy, would you say? I was rough and tough, hung out outside, did a lot of sports. And all throughout my life, there have been people who have seen something within me that I didn't really see in myself. And that's really my whole life story is, you know, people spotlighting something within me and then acting upon that. And so Megan Lee at the time, Megan Morris now, I had competed in a little fraternity pageant, and she saw potential in me, and she was like, I think you have a lot of potential to do good in Miss ULM, so you should run. And the first time that I ran for Miss ULM was in 2019, and I got first runner-up, and I went in with zero expectations. I just was in a season of my life where I wanted to do something new and get out of my comfort zone. And that was definitely out of my comfort zone. And to see the outcome be, you know, almost won. So
Sure.
Seeing that was like confirmation that that could be a platform to promote everything that I advocate for, which is, you know, health and wellness, mental health, pulling yourself up from unfavorable circumstances. So I just kind of ran with that, and she encouraged me to compete for a local title and have the Miss Louisiana experience. So that's whenever I went to the Miss Taste of the Twin Cities and Miss Heart of Pilot pageant and got Miss Taste of the Twin Cities and went on to Miss Louisiana. And that was actually a really fun title to hold, because with any title that a title holder holds, you don't have to do anything. I mean, obviously it's implied,
yeah.
But you can really make what you want out of it. And so I thought, okay, Taste of the Twin Cities, let's support local. So I started spotlighting local restaurants and created this scavenger hunt between the Twin Cities. So it's just kind of taken off.
You have a maturity that is unbelievable, I think. And I think it's amazing what you're doing and what you've done. Before we get into your personal story a little bit, talk about the pageant itself, because a lot of people have misconceptions about what the pageant is.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because I too had this stigma around pageants and pageant girls, and that's why I kind of wrote myself off of like, no, that's not something that's not what I'd be interested in. But really, if you peel back the layer of the performance and the stage and the spotlight, there's so much work that goes into it, whether it's interview prep, sitting in front of 5 people who are asking you, you know, questions back to back. You have to be up to date on current events and politics. You have to have something that you stand for and that you're passionate about. It's known as your social impact initiative. And so I think whenever people perceive pageant girls, they think of the hair and the beauty and the makeup. And that's actually what created most. World peace. But it's so much more than that. It's actually giving women a platform to promote the things that they're passionate about, as well as having scholarship opportunities.
And furthering educational goals.
Yes.
So, but it's not just I have a social platform. It's I have a social platform in 30 seconds or 60 seconds. That's hard.
Oh my goodness. Yes, especially on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have an audience of people and someone shoves a microphone in your face and says, tell us what you stand for. And you say, what?
Well, I would say I'm Asja Jordan. I'm a first generation high school graduate, college graduate, and I believe in the potential of people and spotlighting that. And I believe that I'm meant to be that catalyst that helps people realize that potential that they have within them through all these things I'm passionate about.
So polished.
It's so
Boom.
hard. Look,
Yeah.
look, that probably was not
And
30
then drop the
seconds.
microphone.
Yeah, drop the mic and walk off. And walk.
In high heels.
And you can talk about, but your performance, I'm looking for the word right now. Talent. Your talent reflects that platform. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. You know, that was actually something that was deterring me away from competing was the talent portion. I was like, yeah, I mean, I like to hip hop dance, you know, do the worm and stuff and
So does
tick and
Chris,
talk and
but-
do the robot.
I'm world
Oh, you have to
famous
show
for
me that one day. But of course, I'm not a singer. I'm not a dancer. There wasn't one talent piece that I was a master at. But I really had to sit and think, okay, I like to write. I like to write poetry. I like to inspire and motivate. I'm really physically strong. And so I kind of combined my love for yoga and fitness and writing to create this, what I call a self-narrated yoga and strength performance that tells the story of how I've brought myself up in my life.
Wow.
So it's just, but you're underselling this thing. Yeah. So in a field that's so measured with singing and piano and I hate to say baton twirling because that sounds derogatory.
And dancing.
But dancing and all of these things, your talent that you performed was opening up about your own personal story at the same time as demonstrating this physical prowess that you've trained to demonstrate.
Yes.
So on stage, there's a high bar, and you're using it as part of the technique. But tell us a little bit about the narrative, because I really want you to talk about it.
Okay. Well, one, I want to give a shout out to the National Guard because they donated that pull-up bar, and
Yes,
that was
thank you.
so nice
Yeah.
of them. And I spray painted it. You know, that's how I created the prop. But the narration, I created a connection between being candidate number one, the first on stage, and my story of being a first generation high school graduate, college graduate, and all the, you know, breaking of generational cycles. And
You
what
just
was
said that so fast.
Yeah.
You're breaking generational cycles, going to school, going to college, escaping, but the burden of being number one too.
Yes, because that's scary, right? It's scary to
scary.
be
It's a
the
lonely
first
place.
to do anything. I mean, you're stepping out in a leap of faith. You're risking being ridiculed or, you know, with the talent being non-traditional, my number one fear and concern was, how is this going to translate? Are they going to understand my heart? Are they going to see it as, you know, I was real hesitant to put first generation high school graduate in there because I did not want it to seem like anybody who didn't graduate high school that I was looking down upon that, because that's not the case.
Right.
It was speaking of, you know, the cycles and the environment that you're in growing up is such a set such a precedent for your life. And if it weren't for people, and that's kind of what I want to emphasize, because I use the phrase brought myself up, but I would be wrong if I didn't like
Sure.
speak
There's
to my
always outside influence.
yes, speak to outside influence, speak to my faith about that, because I believe that God really placed people in my life to spotlight that. But also we make the decision to put ourselves around people who can help us foster that personal and professional growth. So that was really about the message. And what's cool is how candidates choose their candidate number is everyone's name goes inside a fishbowl, and then the current Miss Louisiana draws the name, and then you get to pick your spot placement. And I was the very last to be drawn, and the only spot left was number one. And no
How
one,
ironic.
Yeah.
no one wants to be number one. That's why, you know,
They
it's
don't
always
want to
the-
be first and stumble.
yeah, because you walk out and you're the first to introduce yourself,
Right.
and it's nerve-wracking. But
Sure.
I realized in that moment of anxiousness, whenever I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be the first, my mind was just flooded by what we're talking about, these stories about like, you're meant to be the first, you're meant to set the precedent, you're meant to set the precedent in your future family, you're meant to set the precedent on stage in this, this little moment here.
Be calm and trust.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
And so talk a little bit about your degree. Right now, you're working over at the West Monroe Chamber as an intern, but you work in the marketing department at ULM, correct?
Yes, shout out to OMC. I love that team so much.
The Dream Suite.
Dream Suite.
Yeah.
Miss Lisa Miller, she is one of those pivotal people in my life. She
has a long history of doing that too.
Yeah, she's just been such a bright light to so many people, and it makes me emotional thinking about it. But yeah, over there I help with community engagement. So I actually kind of pitched this to Miss Lisa about how I would love to be a person who is a face of the university. This is before, wow, I just had a realization. This is before Miss ULM. I pitched a GA position that was going to be a person who goes out and is a face of the university, kind of bridging that gap between community and campus. And so now I'm going to ribbon cuttings, and that might look like creating some volunteer projects, community service projects on campus, getting outside organizations involved. And so that's what I do with my GA job, as well as help with marketing tasks and stuff. But it's so funny because then I became Miss ULM, and that's what Miss ULM does. That's neat.
Unintentionally drawn to it.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself when you graduate in December? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing?
Oh, that's such a big question for really anyone. But the 20s is such a time where you feel like the world is your oyster, but you also feel like, oh my gosh, I could make the wrong decisions and it'd be pivotal. But there's really no wrong or right decision. Right. I think if you've ever heard of the meandering path, we think of life. Yes, we think of life as linear, but it's not. You're going to be like a ping pong ball, go over here and play with this, and then, that might shift your direction here. I initially was in business administration, and then I got into accounting courses and realized I wasn't a big numbers person. I love all things business, but maybe I don't love all things business. Right. So I switched to public administration because public administration, working with the government, a nonprofit organization, is very mission oriented. I feel like it has this scope where you zoom out, you identify a need in the community, and that's what you do with the chambers and in the business community, and you work to implement objectives and events, projects to meet those needs. And I want to be a part of a big mission like that. So whether that looks like working for West Monroe Chambers or nonprofit, that would be my goal in gaining stability. But my true heart's desire is to be an entrepreneur and a life coach. I know that sounds so cheesy. I used to hate saying it, but I love personal growth and personal development so much because it helps you. Not only does it help you self-reflect, but it goes back to that idea of potential. And I think that's how I can be that person that.
But AJ, you already are an entrepreneur. You already have a brand, Potential to Kinetic. So let's talk about that. Let's not undersell what you're doing. Yeah. You say, I want to be. You are.
I know. I guess it's kind of like that imposter syndrome that everybody has.
Absolutely. Because
it's not like I'm making bank out here with but that's not really what entrepreneur is, and I have to call myself out on that too. But with personal training, so Potential to Kinetic, that's my social impact initiative in pageantry. It was first an LLC, though. Before that, it was what I call a mantra, an affirmation that I spoke on a daily basis, because one day someone said the phrase, "Asja, you have so much potential." And for some odd reason, my mind got drawn back to like elementary science with potential and kinetic energy, and how potential is stored and kinetic is in motion, and what is needed to turn potential energy to kinetic energy, a catalyst. And so I realized that I was doing that type of work for people with personal training services, with community events, and yoga services. So I put all of those services under the umbrella of P2K and turned it into an LLC.
That's so cool. You make my heart happy.
Oh,
somebody's
thanks.
out in the community.
Well, you give us hope for the future. You're one of the reasons God's smiling on our future, because you have so much potential and you're following your passion and lighting up the world as you go. And that's such a fantastic thing to do. We're just so proud of you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And I just hope that people out there can hear stories like this and be inspired themselves to realize their own potential and not see title holders or people who wear crowns and sashes or people who wear fancy suits all the time is like, you know, something that's on this pedestal, but we're real life humans and we all have stories and we've all had struggles that we've had to pull ourselves out of, maybe even on a daily basis. And so I just hope that sharing these types of things and bringing these things to the light can help people find their own path and find their own passions and purpose.
Wow, that's really inspiring. But I want to pick up on one more thing. Tell us about this initiative with the young girls that you're working on.
I'm so glad you asked about that. So this is called the Warrior Princess Program.
Of course it is.
And it's so sentimental to me because as a child, I loved Xena Warrior Princess. And it's crazy because I can barely remember anything about the storyline.
Right.
But as a child, I wanted to be like Xena. I have 2 older brothers, and we would go and get shots at the doctor, and they would cry, and I would see them cry, and I'm like, I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to be strong like Xena. And my grandmother would be like, you're strong like Xena. You're strong like Xena, and just kind of say that over and over. And so any time that I had fear, I would think about Xena. And on, I think it was my 9th birthday, she called me and pretended to be
Your
Xena.
grandmother called
yes.
you pretending to be Xena.
Pretending to be Xena.
The warrior princess herself.
Yes, and it was the best birthday present ever. And so, long story short, over time I forgot about Xena, and I was talking to my boyfriend about the whole warrior princess idea, and he was like, ooh, that might be a good program for kids. And I was like, but wait a second, I kind of have become a warrior princess without saying it, that's, but with yoga, warrior poses. And then I never would have thought I'd walk around with a crown and sash and kids think I look like a princess. And so I want to teach young girls how to find their own warrior princess. Not every kid likes sports, likes, after school activities or whatever, but I think yoga, self-development, and character development is everything that's going to entail within this program. So I'm doing Warrior Princess Week at ULM as Miss ULM, and it'll be a summer camp where we do self-esteem exercises, yoga, like little yoga classes, line dances, physical activity, and then at the end of the week they will graduate with a crown and a sash that says Warrior Princess, a yoga mat kind of like as their sword or shield, and a journal to represent that personal growth.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm so proud of what you're doing in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
For being not just a role model, but being open to be engaged with our community. That's pretty cool.
And we can't wait. We can't wait to see all the great things that you do.
Thank you so much. You two are amazing.
Oh. This has been Ouachita One Table. I'm Chris Kelly with the West Monroe West Ouachita Chamber, joined as always
with Roy Heatherly with the Monroe Chamber. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Ouachita One Table with Christopher Kelly and Roy Heatherly. This podcast is a partnership project of the Monroe and West Monroe West Ouachita Chambers of Commerce and was produced by Godly Works Production in the Louisiana Catalyst Podcast Studios at the Benoit Community Center.